Hi everyone, I wanted to show you what we do for a ditty lesson. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting a photograph of a ditty sheet on our blog so that you can have a go at doing that with your child after you've seen my Read Write Ink Speed Sound lesson that I've done every day. So the ditty sheets look just like this. Basically, it's a simple story for the children to read with some sounds to practice and some words to practice reading. So the first thing we would do with our ditty sheet is we would practice the speed sounds at the top. So what is good for you to be able to get your child to do is to point to each sound as they say the sound, like this. K, t, a, h, e, r, d, f, and again. So if you get them to do it about 3 times, and then what you can do is point to them in a random order so the child reads them as you point. So we do this, they're called speed sounds because it helps to build their reading speed. That's why we do it. Next on the sheet, it says green words. Green words are words that you can read using your Fred Talk. Some sheets also have another box underneath which says red words. Red words are words that you cannot use your Fred Talk to work out. For instance, the word the, T-H-E. If you actually said the sounds t, it wouldn't make sense at all. So those words you just fix in your head and remember them. But for this little ditty story, there are no red words to learn. There are only green words. So I would suggest that you do 3 reads of the green words. The first read, you Fred Talk, read the word like this. K, at, cat, ed, red, at, fat, in, at, hat. Now, if your child is really quick at reading them out loud like that, you could then get them to do Fred in their head. If you don't feel your child is ready for Fred in your head, then read it again using your Fred Talk. So Fred in your head is basically, you do what I've just done, but you're saying the sounds in your head. So, cat, red, fat, in, hat. And then you could try a speed read. Now this is how we build fluency with children. We want the children to be able to just recognise the word. Now I hear lots of parents saying to me, oh, they've learnt the word off by heart. That is really good for reading, because if you see in this story the word cat is repeated, the word hat is repeated, the word fat is repeated. It's really, you would not be surprised at how many children have to go back and say at every time they see that word cat. And we don't want them to do that. We want them to actually learn it so that they can then just read the word. Because every time they stop to go at, that's breaking the flow of the sentence, and they lose the whole sense of the story or the sentence that they're reading. So don't worry, if it looks like they're memorising some of it, that's really good. So we then we would then go back and see if we can read our words quickly. Now it may well be that they're still doing Fred in their heads, so don't worry about it. Cat, red, fat, in, hat. So once they've done their speed sounds, their green words and any red words, we go on to read the story, and we'll do it a sentence at a time. So there are some words here that the children may know. For instance, a and in. So hopefully they won't need to say in. A, k, at, cat. A, cat, in, a, at, hat. A cat in a hat. So if you notice, I went back and reread the sentence a couple of times there as I was doing it. It just helps them to keep the flow and understand the meaning of the sentence. So the next sentence, at, fat. A fat cat in a at, hat. A fat cat in a hat. So hopefully, because we've got similar words in each sentence, each new sentence they read, there are some words they're not having to Fred talk. A fat cat in a red hat. A fat cat in a red hat. So the children have read it once. Then what you do is you read it to the children and try and put a little bit of expression in it. Point to the words as you're doing it. A cat in a hat. A fat cat in a hat. A fat cat in a red hat. So now you've read the story as a whole to them, you ask the children to have another go at reading the story back to you, which you then get them to do. Then at the bottom it says questions to talk about. So this question is, what does the cat look like? And hopefully what they're going to say back to you, it has got a red hat on. Or they might say, it's a black cat. And if you say, you might then ask, oh, why do you think it's a black cat? So you can talk about the story afterwards. And then at the bottom it says, hold a sentence. Now here it says, put a cat in a big hat. I've got two versions here, a cat in a hat or a fat cat. What we want is the children to be able to write a sentence. To start off with, I tend to keep them a bit more simple than the suggestion there. So I would say, I'd like you to write a fat cat. So then we would repeat it. My turn, a fat cat. Your turn, a fat cat. 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 So you repeat it lots of times so the children know what they're going to write. And then they have a go at writing a fat cat, making sure that they get 2 fingers for a finger space between a and fat and cat. And they use their Fred talk to sound out at and write at. And that's how we do a ditty sheet. Now we were just about to start ditty sheets with our number 1 group. So you will know if your child's in that group, the children working with Mrs. Bourlaise. What I would do is, for the first ditty, I would perhaps read it over 2 days, so the children are getting the idea of how we do it. Read the second ditty over 2 days, so they're getting the idea of the process of how we work down it. Once they've done ditty 1, ditty 2, then I'll start uploading a new ditty every day. When they get to ditty 10, we'll have a little bit of a review to see how well you feel they're getting on with it, because it might mean then that they can move on to read books. And Oxford Owl at home, and we've got a class login, have got lots of read books that are online that the children will be able to read with you at home. So I hope that explains how to do a ditty lesson. It's only taken me, about 8 minutes to explain it. It might last a little bit longer when you're doing it with your children, maybe up to about 15 minutes, but hopefully you've got a bit of an idea of how to do it. Okay?